The silence of space was shattered by the blaring alarms of the Imperial Galactic Arena's control center. Captain Arlen Voss stood unmoved at the center of the chaos, his face a mask of stoic determination as the holographic display before him showed the encroaching alien ships. They came in a spiraling formation, arrogance apparent in their deliberate and unhurried approach. The arena, a mammoth construct assembled by the Galactic Council, was meant to be an impartial field of survival trials, yet today it felt more like a gallows. Humanity's role in this cosmic theater was clear. They were to be the underdogs, the fodder for an alien audience that thrived on the spectacle of despair. But Voss and his crew had other plans. "We have them exactly where we want them," he muttered, his voice barely audible over the cacophony. Lieutenant Juno Reyes, ever the pragmatist, glanced up from her console, a slight smile breaking through her stoic demeanor. "They still think it's just a game, sir," she remarked. "Then it's time we show them how we play," Voss replied, his gaze fixed on the unfolding tableau of alien vessels. The alien fleet, a coalition of different species united by their disdain for humanity, had been broadcasting their superiority across the known universe. Their messages, laced with condescension and ridicule, were meant to demoralize, to cement the inevitability of human defeat. But the humans, resourceful and resilient, had turned these very broadcasts into their greatest weapon. "Begin transmission," Voss ordered, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife. Across the galaxy, screens flickered with the human response. What appeared as mere static to the uninitiated was a symphony of subversive codes, a linguistic virus engineered to infiltrate and undermine alien communication networks. It was something more than words, it was a weapon. The aliens, confident in their technological superiority, had not anticipated such a move. Their vessels began to falter, commands lost in translation, systems malfunctioning under the barrage of invisible information. "They're breaking formation," Reyes reported, a note of satisfaction in her voice. Voss allowed himself a rare smirk. "This is only the beginning." The alien ships, now in disarray, frantically attempted to recalibrate, their confidence evaporating into the void. But the humans pressed their advantage, launching a coordinated strike that further dismantled the illusion of alien invincibility. Amidst the chaos, a new figure emerged on the holographic display, a high-ranking alien commander, visible distress marring their otherwise impassive features. "How are they doing this?" the commander demanded, their voice a mix of disbelief and anger. Voss leaned forward, a glint of defiance in his eyes. "You underestimated us," he said, his words a final verdict. As the arena's gravitational field shifted, trapping the alien fleet in a web of their own making, Voss knew this was a moment that would echo across the stars, a turning point in the galactic perception of humanity. The last thing the aliens saw before their systems went dark was a human face, resolute and unyielding, staring defiantly into the abyss. In the silence that followed, the crew of the human ship waited, breath held, as the dust of their victory settled. But Voss knew that this was only the beginning of a larger conflict, one that would demand everything from them. "Prepare for the next wave," he commanded, his voice steady. "We're just getting started." The low hum of the ship's engines was a comforting constant, one of the few things that remained unchanged. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the UNSC Perseverance, her eyes scanning the data feeds streaming across the consoles. The ship had been adrift near the event horizon of an uncharted black hole for days, caught in its gravitational pull. Efforts to break free had failed, leaving them ensnared in a spiraling dance with oblivion. "Captain," Lieutenant Marcus Hale called from the tactical station, "we're picking up anomalous readings from the black hole. They're stronger than before." Elena approached the console, her brow furrowed. The readings were unlike anything they'd encountered, a potent cocktail of electromagnetic interference and something else, something primal and unsettling. "What do you make of it?" Hale shook his head, his fingers dancing across the controls. "It's not just interference. It's almost like a signal." Elena's jaw tightened. She was a veteran of countless missions, but the unknown still held the power to unnerve her. The thought that something could exist within the black hole, reaching out, defied all scientific understanding. "Put it on speakers," she ordered, her voice steady despite the unease gnawing at her. The bridge filled with a cacophony of noise, a chaotic symphony of static and distorted frequencies. Beneath it, a rhythmic pattern emerged, like a heartbeat pulsing in the void. "It's not random," Hale said, his eyes wide with realization. "There's an intelligence behind it." Alina's mind raced, possibilities and potential threats vying for prominence. "Can we trace its origin?" Attempting to triangulate now, Hale's fingers flew over the console, his focus razor sharp. A soft chime indicated an incoming transmission from the engineering deck. Alina tapped the console, and Chief Engineer Tessa Byrne appeared on the screen, her face lined with fatigue. "Captain, we've got a problem," Byrne began without preamble. "The engines are operating at full capacity, but we're not making any headway. Whatever's out there is pulling us in stronger than we can push back. We can't sustain this output indefinitely," Alina said, more to herself than anyone else. "Suggestions?" Byrne hesitated, a rare occurrence for someone known for her resourcefulness. "We might be able to reroute power from non-essential systems, buy us some time. But it's a stopgap at best." "Do it," Alina decided, "and keep me updated on any changes." The screen blinked off, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Alina turned her attention back to Hale. "Any progress?" "Negative, Captain. The signals originating from the black hole itself. It's like trying to pinpoint a whisper in a hurricane." Alina considered their dwindling options. Communication with command was impossible. Their transmissions were swallowed by the black hole's interference. They were alone, isolated in a hostile expanse. "Captain," Ensign Kato Tanaka, the ship's navigator, spoke up. "Permission to speak freely?" "Granted," Alina replied, appreciating the young officer's resolve. "We've been running simulations on potential escape vectors," Tanaka continued. "If we can exploit the gravitational slingshot effect, we might be able to break free." "It's a long shot," Hale interjected, skeptical. "We'd need precise calculations, timing down to the millisecond. A single misstep and we're done for." Alina weighed their options, the weight of command pressing down on her. "It's a risk, but it's better than sitting here waiting for the inevitable." Tanaka nodded, determination etched on his face. "I'll get started on the calculations. We won't get a second chance." As the crew moved with renewed purpose, Alina allowed herself a brief moment of solitude, staring out at the swirling abyss. The unknown loomed ever closer, a reminder of humanity's fragility in the face of the cosmos. Hours blended into an indistinct haze as the crew worked tirelessly, each member a cog in the intricate machine driving them toward salvation. Alina circulated among them, offering encouragement and direction, her presence a steadying force. In the quiet moments between tasks, whispers circulated through the ship. Tales of ghostly apparitions seen flickering at the edge of vision, shadows moving where none should be. Alina dismissed them as stress-induced illusions, yet she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, a sense of malevolence lurking just beyond perception. "Captain," Hale's voice cut through her reverie, drawing her back to the present. "I've isolated a pattern in the signal. It's almost like a language. Can you decipher it?" Alina asked, her curiosity piqued despite the circumstances. "I'm working on it," Hale replied, his focus unwavering. "But it's unlike any linguistic structure we've encountered. It's alien." The word hung in the air, a reminder of the vast unknown that lay beyond humanity's reach. Alina felt a chill run through her, the implications both exhilarating and terrifying. "Keep at it," she instructed. "We need every advantage we can get." The hours stretched into days, the crew's resilience tested to its limits. Byrne's rerouted power kept them buoyed, but the strain was evident in the flickering lights and the occasional groan of the ship's hull. Tanaka's calculations were nearing completion, a complex web of numbers and trajectories that held their fate in its grasp. Alina knew the time for action was fast approaching, the window for opportunity shrinking with each passing moment. As the crew gathered on the bridge, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation and dread. Tanaka presented his findings, a meticulous plan that required unwavering precision. "This is it," Elena addressed them, her voice steady. "Our best chance. We execute flawlessly, or we don't come back." The crew nodded, their resolve unwavering despite the odds. They had faced the unknown together, and they would see it through to the end. As they prepared for the maneuver, a sudden tremor shook the ship, alarms blaring as systems flickered in response. Elena's heart pounded as she assessed the situation. "Status report," she barked, the urgency of command returning. "Something's coming through the signal." Hale's voice was tense, his fingers flying over the controls. "It's breaking through our systems, trying to interface." "Shut it down," Elena ordered, her instincts screaming danger. "I can't," Hale replied, frustration and fear etched into his features. "It's overriding our protocols." Elena's mind raced, her thoughts a blur of possibilities and contingencies. "Tanaka, proceed with the maneuver." "We can't wait." The bridge erupted into controlled chaos as the crew executed the plan with military precision. The ship lurched as it entered the calculated slingshot trajectory, the gravitational forces pressing down on them with crushing intensity. Elena held her breath as the ship strained against the cosmic forces, the hull creaking under the immense pressure. The black hole loomed ever closer, a dark maw threatening to swallow them whole. As they reached the apex of their trajectory, a sudden jolt rocked the ship, systems flickering and dying in rapid succession. The lights dimmed, leaving the bridge bathed in an eerie half-light. "What's happening?" Elena demanded, her voice rising above the cacophony. "The signal," Hale replied, his voice strained. It's inside the ship." Elena's blood ran cold as she realized the full extent of their predicament. The signal, the intelligence behind it, had breached their defenses, infiltrating the ship's systems. "Burn, we need options," Elena called over the intercom, urgency lacing her words. A moment later, Burns' voice crackled through the speakers, strained but determined. "We're working on it, Captain. Trying to isolate the affected systems. But it's like fighting a ghost. Every time we think we've got it cornered, it slips away." Elena's mind raced, weighing their dwindling options. The ship was caught in a deadly tug-of-war, the gravitational forces battling the alien presence for control. "Captain, I'm detecting movement," Hale reported, his voice tense. "In the lower decks, unidentified lifeforms." Elena's heart skipped a beat, the revelation sending a shockwave through her. The signal wasn't just a transmission. It was a harbinger of something more, something corporeal. "Security teams to the lower decks," she ordered, her voice a steel blade cutting through the chaos. "Contain any threats. We cannot allow them to reach critical systems." The crew sprang into action, their training taking over as they armed themselves and headed for the lower decks. Elena watched them go, a mix of pride and trepidation swelling within her. The bridge was silent save for the hum of the struggling systems and the distant echoes of the crew's movements. Elena felt the weight of command pressing down on her, the responsibility for every soul aboard a constant companion. "Captain, we've initiated lockdown procedures," Hale reported, his focus unwavering. "But the lifeforms, they're adaptive. They're learning." Elena absorbed the information, her mind a whirlwind of strategy and survival. The alien presence was more than just a threat. It was a cunning adversary, testing their limits and probing their defenses. "Stay vigilant," she instructed, her resolve hardening. "We may be outmatched, but we are not outwitted." The hours stretched on, each moment a test of endurance and will. The ship's systems flickered and groaned under the strain, the alien presence relentless in its pursuit. As the crew fought to contain the intruders, Elena remained a steady beacon, her leadership a lifeline in the chaos. She knew the stakes, understood the consequences of failure. "Captain," Tanaka's voice broke through the tension. "We're approaching the critical point. If we don't act now, we'll lose our window." Elena nodded, the decision already made. "Execute the maneuver. All hands, brace for acceleration." The ship shuddered as it engaged the escape trajectory, the gravitational forces pulling against them with a ferocity that threatened to tear them apart. The bridge was silent save for the creaking of the hull and the labored breathing of the crew, each member a testament to human resilience and determination. As they approached the edge of the black hole's grip, a final jolt rocked the ship, the alien presence making one last desperate bid for control. Alina's fingers gripped the armrests of her chair, her gaze fixed on the viewscreen as the stars blurred into a kaleidoscope of light and motion. The ship surged forward, breaking free of the black hole's grasp, the alien signal dissipating into the void as they escaped its influence. A collective sigh of relief swept through the bridge, the tension of the past days evaporating in the face of their hard-won victory. "Status report," Elena requested, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "We're clear, Captain," Hale confirmed, his expression one of exhausted triumph. "Systems are stabilizing. The alien presence, it's gone." Elena allowed herself a moment of relief, the burden of command momentarily lifted. They had faced the unknown and emerged victorious, a testament to human tenacity and ingenuity. But as the crew celebrated their survival, Elena's thoughts turned to the future. The encounter had revealed a universe teeming with mysteries and dangers beyond comprehension. And as the Perseverance sailed into the depths of space, Elena knew their journey had only just begun. The cold sweep of the void clawed at the hull of the asterisk Lysistrata as it lurched through an uncharted region of space, a tiny vessel adrift in the titanic, indifferent sea of stars. Inside, Captain Alara Kincaid stood before the dimly lit operations console, her jaw set like concrete, eyes scanning the holographic readouts flickering before her. Around her, the bridge crew operated with mechanical precision, their movements deliberate, as if the very act of efficiency could stave off the dread that had settled over them like a suffocating shroud. The ship's AI, Athena, projected a holographic image of the surrounding space, a vast emptiness punctuated by the crimson glow of the alien fleet. They were surrounded, a lone human craft caught within the jaws of an enemy whose technology eclipsed their own in ways thought impossible until this encounter. These beings, the Mer, had appeared from nowhere, their ships sleek and silent, each bristling with an arsenal that rendered the human arsenal obsolete. "Captain," Lieutenant Sato's voice broke the tense silence, his tone clipped and professional. "The Mer fleet is holding position. No signs of aggression, but their weapons are charged." Alara nodded tersely, her thoughts a turbulent storm behind her steely facade. "We need options, Sato." "Athena, is there any way to communicate with them? Every attempt so far has been met with silence." Athena's response was immediate, her voice smooth and unperturbed. "All known communication protocols have failed, Captain. The Mer appear to utilize an entirely different spectrum, one we have yet to decode." "Then we'll have to find another way," Alara replied, her mind racing. "What about the propaganda array? Could we use it to broadcast an appeal?" The array, a relic of human ingenuity, had been designed to manipulate the electromagnetic spectrum, turning it into a weaponized broadcast. Originally conceived to disrupt enemy communications during the early Martian conflicts, it had since been repurposed as a tool for diplomatic outreach and psychological operations. A last resort, but perhaps their only remaining hope. Sato shook his head, his expression grim. "We can try, but there's no guarantee they'll even understand it, let alone respond." "Understood," Alara said, her voice carrying the weight of command. "Begin preparations. We need to buy ourselves time, and maybe, just maybe, we can turn this to our advantage." As her crew set to work, Alara moved to the viewport, staring out at the alien fleet that loomed in the distance. The Mer's ships were unlike anything she had ever seen, a symphony of light and shadow, their surfaces shifting and shimmering as if alive. In that moment, she felt the vastness of the universe pressing down upon her, a crushing realization of just how small and isolated humanity truly was. Her thoughts drifted to her crew, the men and women who had entrusted her with their lives. Lieutenant Sato, with his unwavering loyalty and sharp mind, Engineer Vasquez, whose hands could coax miracles from stubborn machinery, and Dr. Amani, who carried the weight of their well-being on her shoulders. Each of them faced the same stark reality, yet they continued, driven by something deeper, something quintessentially human, a refusal to yield. As the hours stretched into eternity, the tension aboard the Lysistrata became palpable. The crew's initial resolve began to fray, anxiety seeping into their interactions. The usual camaraderie gave way to terse exchanges, eyes darting nervously toward the silent Mer vessels that circled them like predators scenting blood. In the medbay, Dr. Amani worked tirelessly, her nimble fingers deftly tending to the minor injuries and stress-induced ailments that had become increasingly common. She paused briefly, her gaze drifting to the small viewport, where the alien fleet hung like a dark omen. "How are they holding up?" Vasquez's voice startled her from her reverie, the engineer leaning against the doorframe, exhaustion etched into his features. Amani sighed, setting aside her tools. "They're scared, Vasquez. Hell, I'm scared, but they're also resilient. They want to fight, to survive." "Yeah," Vasquez replied, running a hand through his hair. "But how do you fight an enemy that refuses to even acknowledge you exist?" Amani met his gaze, her eyes steady. "We do what we've always done. We adapt. We find a way." Vasquez nodded, a flicker of hope igniting within him. "Guess it's a good thing we've got you keeping us patched up, then." A faint smile ghosted across Amani's lips. "And you keeping this ship running. We're a good team." In the operations center, Athena's voice cut through the ambient hum of machinery. "Captain, the propaganda array is ready for deployment. We have configured a message, though its efficacy remains uncertain." Alara faced the console, her expression unyielding. "Do it. We have nothing to lose." As the message was broadcast into the void, a strange stillness settled over the bridge. The crew held their breath, waiting for a response, any sign that their plea had been heard. Minutes stretched into eternity, the silence oppressive. Then, a sudden flare of light from the Mer fleet shattered the stillness, their ships shifting, repositioning. Weapon systems hummed to life, energy signatures spiking. "Incoming transmission," Athena announced, her voice colored with a hint of surprise. Visual only, the screen flickered to life, revealing an image of a Mer, an ethereal being of light and shadow, its form both beautiful and terrifying. It regarded them with an inscrutable gaze, alien in its intensity. "You are different," the Mer's voice resonated through the bridge, a melody of tones woven into a semblance of speech. "We have encountered many, but none like you." Alara stepped forward, her resolve unwavering. "We are the Lysistrata*, representing the human race. We seek only peaceful coexistence." The Mer tilted its head, as if considering her words. "Your kind is resilient, yet you stand on the precipice of annihilation." A chill ran through the crew, the weight of their situation starkly apparent. Alara's mind raced, searching for an angle, a weakness to exploit. "We may be outmatched, but we are not without strength," she said, her voice steady. "We are willing to learn, to adapt. Perhaps there is something we can offer each other." The Mer hesitated, a flicker of interest in its luminous eyes. "We shall see. Your kind is unexpected." The transmission ended abruptly, the alien fleet resuming its silent vigil. Alara released a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. It was a small victory, a glimmer of hope amidst the encroaching darkness. Yet, as the hours wore on, doubt crept into the hearts of the crew. The Mer's words hung over them like a specter, a reminder of their precarious situation. The alien technology, so far beyond their own, seemed insurmountable, a wall they could not climb, a puzzle they could not solve. In the quiet moments between crises, the crew found solace in each other. They gathered in the cramped mess hall, sharing stories, laughter, and fears. Bonds forged in the crucible of desperation, each clinging to the fragile hope that they might yet survive. Lieutenant Sato sat beside Alara, his expression thoughtful. "Captain, what do you think they meant, unexpected?" Alara sipped her coffee, the bitter warmth a welcome distraction. I don't know, Sato. But it gives us a chance. A slim one, but a chance nonetheless. It's strange, Sato mused, to think that propaganda, of all things, might be our saving grace. Alara nodded, a wry smile tugging at her lips. We've always had a talent for turning the unexpected into advantage. Let's hope it holds true this time. In the engineering bay, Vasquez worked alongside Amani, their hands deft and assured as they coaxed the aging ship into compliance. The hum of the machinery was a comforting rhythm, the familiar sounds grounding them amidst the chaos. Think we'll make it out of this? Vasquez asked, glancing at Amani. I don't know, she replied, her focus unwavering. But I do know that giving up isn't an option. Vasquez chuckled, a hint of warmth in his voice. I'll hold you to that, Doc. As the days slipped by, the mermaid made no further contact. Their ships hovered on the periphery, an omnipresent threat that gnawed at the crew's nerves. Supplies dwindled, and the Lysistrata's systems strained under the constant pressure. Yet, amidst the mounting despair, a quiet determination took root, a shared resolve that transcended fear. In the heart of the ship, Alara stood before the operations console, her gaze fixed on the alien fleet. She felt the weight of her responsibility, a burden she bore with unwavering fortitude. Her crew depended on her, and she would not fail them. Athena, she said softly, her voice carrying the strength of her conviction. Begin preparations for another broadcast. We need to show them what we're capable of, what it means to be human. Understood, Captain, Athena replied, her holographic form flickering with a semblance of anticipation. I shall commence immediately. Alara nodded, her thoughts turning inward. The Mer had seen something in them, something unexpected. Perhaps it was their resilience, their refusal to yield in the face of overwhelming odds. Or perhaps it was something more, an echo of potential yet unrealized. As the Lysistrata moved into position, its crew braced for the unknown. They were outmatched, their chances slim, but they were not beaten. Not yet. Within them burned a fire, a spark of defiance that would not be extinguished. In the darkness of space, the human spirit flickered, a beacon of hope amidst the encroaching void. The corridor's ambient lighting flickered, casting elongated shadows that danced eerily along the metallic walls. Private Arya Lynn moved silently, her boots whispering across the cold floor. The air was thick with an acrid stench, a pungent reminder of the recent breach in the ship's hull, a metallic tang mixed with something more organic, more sinister. Behind her, Lieutenant Marcus Caldwell adjusted his grip on the pulse rifle, its weight surprisingly reassuring, though the ammunition was critically low. His eyes darted between the shadows, vigilant for any movement. The rest of their team had been scattered in the chaos of the initial attack, and now, it was just the two of them navigating the bowels of the ship. The once proud ISS Frontier, now a labyrinth of fear and uncertainty. The ship's AI, hobbled by the alien presence that had infiltrated their systems, offered sporadic guidance. Deck C-5, structural integrity at 34%, it announced in a dispassionate monotone, a stark contrast to the urgency of their situation. Caldwell huffed in frustration, the AI's voice a reminder of what they had lost: control, stability, and their crew. Lynn, any idea what's actually out there? He asked, his voice a low whisper. Whatever it is, it knows this ship better than we do now, she replied, her gaze fixed on the path ahead. We need to get to engineering and regroup. If we can isolate the alien influence, we might regain control. The corridor opened into a wider chamber, the remnants of a skirmish evident in the scorch marks and shattered panels. The bodies of their fallen comrades lay strewn about, a grim testament to the ferocity of their invisible foe. The stench was overpowering, a sickly sweet rot that clung to their senses. Caldwell knelt beside one of the fallen, his features hardening. We can't let their sacrifice be in vain, he murmured, more to himself than to Lynn. He retrieved a small datapad from the corpse, hoping it might hold some clue, some overlooked weakness of their adversary. A sudden clatter echoed from the shadows, drawing their attention like a magnet. Both soldiers raised their weapons, ready to unleash hell on whatever emerged from the darkness. But all that greeted them was silence, the oppressive kind that seems to swallow sound. It was the silence of anticipation, of dread. "We need to move," Lin urged, her instincts screaming that they were being hunted. She pushed through the chamber, her mind racing through possibilities, each more grim than the last. What they faced was not just a physical threat but an intellectual one, an entity that seemed to learn and adapt as quickly as they did. The ship shuddered violently, the deck tilting beneath them as an explosion tore through a nearby section. They stumbled, Caldwell catching himself against the wall. "Engineering bay's close," he said, gesturing toward a service hatch partially hidden behind a pile of debris. "This way." They descended through a series of maintenance tunnels, the path winding and treacherous. The lower decks were lit by emergency beacons, bathing everything in a red hue that seemed to pulse with the rhythm of their hearts. As they moved deeper, Lin couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, a creeping sensation at the nape of her neck. She knew that whatever occupied the ship now was more than just a mindless predator. It was intelligent, calculating, and it had already demonstrated a chilling capacity to exploit their every weakness. Their path was blocked by a collapsed bulkhead, twisted metal barring their way. Caldwell cursed under his breath, scanning the obstruction. "We can cut through," Lin suggested, reaching for the plasma torch slung across her back. It was a risky maneuver. Using it could draw attention, but they had no choice. Every second counted. Caldwell nodded, standing guard as Lin ignited the torch. Its flame burned bright blue, spitting sparks as it ate into the alloy. The noise seemed deafening in the confines of the tunnel, each hiss and pop a beacon to their location. As Lin worked, Caldwell's mind raced, trying to piece together a plan. The ship was vast, and their foe seemed to be everywhere at once. But humans had survived worse odds. They were tenacious, adaptable. It was their greatest strength and perhaps their only hope. The barrier fell away with a final groan, revealing the engineering bay beyond. It was a mess of wires and conduits, half of the screens flickering uselessly. The heart of the ship lay exposed, vulnerable. "Let's get to work," Caldwell said, moving to the central console. He tapped at the controls, but the system resisted, its usual efficiency hampered by alien interference. Lin joined him, their fingers flying over the keys in a desperate dance. "Can you isolate the core?" she asked, her focus unwavering. "Trying," he muttered, sweat beading his brow. "Whatever this thing is, it's dug in deep. It's like fighting a ghost." An ominous hum began to fill the air, a vibration that resonated in their bones. Lin's heart sank. She recognized the sound. The ship's reactor was beginning to overheat, pushed beyond its limits by the infection pervading its systems. If it went critical, their fate was sealed. "We need to vent the core," she said urgently. "Buy us time." Caldwell nodded, redirecting their efforts. The interface was a battleground, their commands met with resistance at every turn. Yet, slowly, they began to regain control, isolating sections of the ship's network from the pervasive alien influence. "Almost there," Caldwell said, a glimmer of hope in his voice. But even as he spoke, the shadows around them shifted, coalescing into something more. The air crackled with energy, the temperature plummeting as the presence revealed itself. It was a whisper at first, a sibilant hiss that filled the room. "You struggle in vain, little humans," it taunted, its voice a chorus of echoes. "This vessel is ours now." Lin and Caldwell exchanged a glance, the weight of their situation pressing down on them. But there was no time for despair, no room for doubt. "Not yet," Lin shot back, her jaw set in defiance. She focused on the console, isolating a crucial subsystem. "If we can trigger the auxiliary vents, we might force it out." Caldwell nodded, their minds in sync. The path was fraught with risk. The venting could destabilize the reactor further, but it was a gamble they had to take. The presence laughed, a sound that chilled them to their cores. "Your efforts amuse us. You are but fleeting sparks in the void. Ignoring the taunts, they worked in tandem, their determination unwavering. The console beeped in protest, but slowly, they wrested control. Lin initiated the venting sequence, praying it would be enough. The ship groaned, metal protesting as energy surged through its veins. For a moment, it seemed as if nothing would happen, that their efforts were in vain. But then, with a mechanical roar, the vents opened, expelling a torrent of superheated plasma into the void. The Presence shrieked, its hold on the ship weakening. Caldwell seized the opportunity, rerouting power to critical systems. Yet, even as they gained ground, the Presence fought back, its tendrils lashing out, cutting through their progress. The ship shuddered, the deck beneath them unstable. Alarms blared, the cacophony a testament to their dire straits. Lin and Caldwell braced themselves, knowing that even as they succeeded, the true battle was only just beginning. As the vents sealed, the silence returned, oppressive and complete. But the threat remained, lurking just beyond their reach. They had bought themselves time, but it was a currency swiftly spent. "We need a plan," Caldwell said, his voice steady despite the storm in his mind. Lin nodded, her resolve firm. "We adapt. We find a way. It's what we do." Together, they faced the path ahead, the darkness deepening around them. The struggle was far from over, but they were human, and they would not yield. They had faced their darkest moment, but the flicker of defiance in their hearts remained unextinguished. The void stretched infinitely in every direction, a cosmic desert punctuated only by distant pinpricks of starlight. The derelict husk of the SS Perseverance drifted silently through the abyss, her engines long dead, her hull scarred by the relentless assault of an enemy more ancient than humanity itself. Inside, the air was thin, the lights dim, casting long shadows across the corridors where once bustling activity now lay silent. Captain Mara Harlan stood at the forward observation deck, her gaze locked on the distant glow of a nebula that painted wisps of color against the darkness. In her hand, she clutched a piece of frayed cloth, a makeshift talisman of hope. It was the last remnant of Earth she possessed, a reminder of the world she was determined to protect, no matter how far from it she had journeyed. She turned to face what remained of her crew, a ragged band of survivors bound together by shared purpose and desperation. They were fewer now. Lieutenant Commander Alex Reyes, his hand wrapped in a crude bandage, leaned against the bulkhead, his eyes weary but unwavering. Dr. Alara Voss, her medical supplies exhausted, sat cross-legged on the floor, her expression one of quiet resolve. And beside her, Specialist Tessa Ng, the youngest among them, who had assumed the role of communications officer, her fingers perpetually stained with grease from coaxing life from the ship's failing systems. They were survivors of a catastrophe, cut off from reinforcements, presumed lost by a galaxy that had already moved on. The Zyrex, an alien race as cruel as they were cunning, had pursued them relentlessly, their shadowy vessels striking with precision and leaving no room for retreat. This time, however, the Zyrex had made the mistake of leaving them to die instead of ensuring it. "We're not dead yet," Mara said, her voice steady, slicing through the oppressive silence. The words were simple but carried the weight of command, the unyielding spirit that refused to be snuffed out. Alex nodded, pushing himself away from the wall. "We've still got some tricks up our sleeves," he replied. His voice was scratchy, a testament to the hours spent poring over schematics and contingency plans. "We'll need more than tricks," Alara interjected, gesturing to the dwindling supplies. "Rationing can only stretch so far, and the oxygen scrubbers are failing." Tessa looked up, her eyes bright with an idea. "The auxiliary power cells," she suggested. "We can reroute them to boost life support. It won't last long, but it might buy us enough time." Mara nodded, feeling a flicker of hope. It was a small, fragile thing in the face of such vast emptiness, but it warmed her nonetheless. "Do it," she said. As Tessa and Alex moved to the control terminals, Mara felt the familiar tension in the pit of her stomach. She was responsible for these souls, and every decision bore the weight of their survival. Yet, she knew that hope and despair were two sides of the same coin, and it was her job to ensure that hope always had the edge. As they worked, the ship shuddered, a reminder of its precarious state. The Zyrex had left them crippled, but they underestimated human tenacity. Where they saw only defeat, Mara saw opportunity. Their overconfidence was a chink in their armor, and she intended to exploit it. The crew labored in silence, each movement purposeful, every action calculated. They were a team forged in the crucible of shared adversity, and their bond was unbreakable. It was a testament to humanity's greatest strength: the ability to endure, to adapt, and to rise above despair. Mara watched them, her heart swelling with pride. She knew they were more than the sum of their parts. They were a beacon of resilience in a universe that seemed determined to extinguish them. And so long as she drew breath, she would not allow that light to go out. Hours bled into one another, time losing meaning as they worked against the clock, against the universe itself. The auxiliary power cells were rerouted, and the life support systems hummed with renewed vigor, a small victory in an ocean of challenges. Yet, it was enough. It had to be. With the immediate crisis averted, they gathered in the cramped galley, their expressions a mixture of exhaustion and determination. Mara addressed them, her voice firm and clear. "We've bought ourselves time, but we can't rely on luck alone. We need a plan, something the Zyrex won't see coming." Alex leaned forward, his eyes glinting with the spark of an idea. "We still have the micro-pulse generator. If we can amplify its signal using the main sensor array, we might be able to overload their systems." Alara raised an eyebrow. "That's assuming they haven't recalibrated since our last encounter." "It's a risk," Mara conceded, "but it's a risk we have to take. If it works, it could give us the opening we need." Tessa grinned, her fingers twitching as if itching to begin. "I can do it. I know I can." Mara nodded. "Then let's make it happen." The crew dispersed, each member diving back into their tasks with renewed vigor. They were fighting for their lives, yes, but more than that, they were fighting for each other, for the promise of a future beyond this dark hour. The Zyrex, for all their arrogance, could not comprehend this level of unity, of purpose. They saw only isolated pockets of resistance, not the indomitable spirit that bound humanity together. As the crew worked, the ship seemed to come alive, thrumming with energy and purpose. The corridors echoed with the sounds of clattering tools and hushed conversations, the ship a hive of activity. It was the sound of hope being forged, of plans being laid against the odds. Mara moved among them, offering words of encouragement and guidance, her presence a steadying force. She knew that leadership was more than making decisions. It was about inspiring others to believe in those decisions, to see the path forward even when it seemed obscured by shadow. The micro-pulse generator was primed, its output channeled through the sensor array. It was a delicate operation, requiring precision and timing. One misstep would spell disaster, but Mara had faith in her team. As they approached the critical moment, the tension was palpable, a living thing that thrummed in the air. Mara took her place at the command console, her fingers poised over the controls. She took a deep breath, steadying herself for what was to come. "All systems are green," Tessa reported, her voice steady despite the gravity of their situation. Mara nodded, her gaze sweeping over her crew. "On my mark," she said, her voice calm and authoritative. They were ready. Now, the command was executed with military precision, the micro-pulse generator humming to life, its signal coursing through the ship's systems. For a heartbeat, there was silence, a pregnant pause where time seemed to stretch infinitely. Then, the ship shuddered, the lights flickering as the pulse was unleashed, a wave of energy that surged forth, invisible but potent. It was a shot in the dark, a gamble born of desperation, but it was all they had. Mara held her breath, her eyes fixed on the sensor readouts. The seconds ticked by, each one a lifetime, and then, "We've done it." Alex's voice broke the silence, triumphant and disbelieving. "Their systems are down. We've got a window." A cheer rose from the crew, a sound of pure, unadulterated relief. For a moment, they allowed themselves to feel the victory, to savor the triumph against the odds. But Mara knew their work was far from over. "We need to move, now," she ordered, cutting through the celebration with the urgency of command. "Deploy the drones. Set course for the nearest jump point." The crew sprang into action, their movements a well-rehearsed dance of efficiency. The drones were launched, their sleek forms streaking through the void, a distraction to further confound the Zyrex as the Perseverance made her bid for freedom. As the ship accelerated, Mara felt a surge of adrenaline, her mind racing through possibilities, contingencies, plans within plans. The Zyrex had underestimated them, and she intended to capitalize on that mistake. The jump point loomed ahead, a swirling vortex of energy that promised escape, a chance to regroup and fight another day. For the first time in weeks, Mara allowed herself to feel the faint glimmer of hope. But the Zyrex were not so easily deterred. Their vessels, though momentarily blinded, were swift to recover, their shadows stalking the Perseverance with renewed fury. The battle was far from over, and Mara knew they were racing against time. The ship's alarms blared, a cacophony of warning as the enemy closed in. Mara's hands flew over the controls, her mind a blur of calculations and strategy. They were so close, the jump point tantalizingly near, but the Zyrex were closing the gap, their wrath a palpable force. The tension was suffocating, the air heavy with the weight of impending doom. Yet, through it all, Mara remained calm, her focus unyielding. She was the anchor, the rock upon which her crew's hope rested. "Hold steady," she commanded, her voice a lifeline in the storm. "We've got one shot at this." The ship surged forward, engines straining against the void, the jump point drawing ever closer. The Zyrex were hot on their heels, their weapons primed, ready to strike the killing blow. And then, in a moment that stretched into eternity, the Perseverance crossed the threshold, the jump point enveloping them in a blinding flash of light. The ship shuddered, reality bending around them, and then, silence. The void returned, the ship adrift in an unfamiliar starfield, the Zyrex nowhere to be seen. Mara exhaled, a slow, steady release of tension. They had survived, against all odds, against an enemy that had seemed insurmountable. But she knew this was only the beginning. The seeds of resurgence had been planted, and now it was up to them to nurture it, to ensure that humanity's light would burn ever brighter. As her crew celebrated, their voices a chorus of relief and joy, Mara allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. She looked out at the stars, at the vast, uncharted expanse that lay before them. It was a daunting challenge, but one she welcomed. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, she allowed herself to hope. And so, with the Perseverance as their vessel and the indomitable spirit of humanity as their guide, they charted a course into the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would forge a future, not just for themselves, but for all who dared to dream of a better tomorrow. The darkness had not won. It never would. The void between stars was a cold, unyielding expanse where light seemed to lose its way, swallowed by the ever-encroaching darkness. Here, the remnants of humanity's fleet lingered, ships battered and scorched by the relentless onslaught of the Veron hive. These aliens, once dismissed as a traveling scourge, had proven themselves a formidable adversary, one that now threatened to eradicate the last survivors of Earth. Aboard the UNS Aegis, Captain Amani Sato stood at the heart of the command deck, her eyes fixed on the holographic display that floated before her. The battle had been unforgiving, and the Aegis bore the scars of their desperation, a shattered hull and flickering systems that struggled to remain functional. Yet, the resolve in her gaze remained unbroken, a testament to the indomitable spirit that had driven humanity to the stars. "Status report," she ordered, her voice a cool anchor against the chaos that surrounded them. Chief Engineer Malik Patel, his hands moving deftly across his console, responded without tearing his eyes from the screen. "We've restored power to the aft thrusters, but shields are down to 15%. Weapons systems are operational, but barely. Amani nodded, absorbing the grim reality. The Veron swarms had descended upon them with an efficiency that was both terrifying and awe-inspiring, their bioorganic ships possessing an uncanny adaptability. Yet in this darkest hour, she felt a stirring within her, a quiet, unyielding refusal to succumb to despair. The Aegis was more than metal and circuitry. It was a vessel of humanity's hopes, and it would not falter while she commanded it. "Signal the fleet," she said, her voice slicing through the tense air. "Prepare to enact Contingency Omega." A ripple of unease passed through the bridge crew. Contingency Omega was a last resort, a plan born from the collective minds of humanity's finest strategists and scientists. It was a gamble, one that could either turn the tide or seal their fate. Lieutenant Arwen Morales, communications officer, hesitated only a moment before patching the order through the fleet's hailing frequencies. Her hands were steady, her resolve mirroring that of her captain. As the message spread, the scattered remnants of the human fleet began to coalesce, battered ships responding to the call like predators sensing the shift in the wind. Among the fleet, whispers of hope started to surface. Each captain knew their role in the gambit, each ship a piece in a deadly game that might just alter the course of their survival. In the distance, the Veron ships loomed, their chitinous forms weaving a deadly dance through the void. They moved with a predatory grace, their confidence bolstered by countless victories. Yet, even as they encroached, they failed to notice the subtle changes in human tactics, the quiet gathering, the calculated repositioning. On board the Aegis, Amani's mind worked tirelessly, recalling every detail of the plan. The Veron had underestimated humanity's capacity for adaptation, their ability to harness the very chaos that threatened to consume them. This was where their strength lay, not in brute force, but in the capacity to innovate under pressure. The key to Contingency Omega lay in the deployment of a new technology, a last-ditch effort that had been developed in the hidden depths of Earth's lunar research facilities. It was a device that harnessed the peculiar properties of a synthetic element, an anomaly discovered in the debris of a long-lost probe. If the calculations were correct, it could disrupt the Veron's bioorganic systems, turning their own adaptability against them. The final piece of the plan lay with Lieutenant Naomi Chen, the fleet's top astrogator, who now worked with feverish intensity. Her task was to calculate a series of precise micro-jumps through the fabric of space, a maneuver that would place the human fleet at the heart of the Veron formation, a place from which chaos could be sown. "Coordinates locked, Captain," Chen announced, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade through silk. Amani's heart pounded, the weight of her decision pressing upon her like the vacuum beyond. "Execute." With a thunderous roar, the Aegis and her sister ships leapt forward, the void distorting as they pierced through the fabric of space. For a moment, the universe seemed to shudder, the stars blurring into streaks of light before solidifying once more. The Veron, taken by surprise, reeled at the sudden intrusion into their ranks. Their formations faltered, confusion spreading like a contagion through their hive mind. "Deploy the device," Amani commanded, her voice steady as the ship shuddered under enemy fire. In the bowels of the Aegis, the device sprang to life, a sphere of shimmering energy that pulsed with an unnatural glow. It released a surge of energy that rippled outward, a silent scream that resonated at the fundamental frequencies of the Veron's biosystems. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Veron ships spiraled out of control, their organic hulls fracturing as their adaptive capabilities turned against them. What had been an unassailable force now fractured into chaos, their insidious harmony shattered by the sudden dissonance. On the Aegis, Amani watched as the tide began to turn, her heart swelling with cautious optimism. The Veron had believed themselves invincible, but they had not reckoned with the ingenuity of humankind, the determination that drove them to defy extinction. Across the fleet, captains seized the moment, their voices rising in unison as they coordinated their assault. Humanity's ships, once scattered and beleaguered, now turned as one to press the advantage, their tactics precise and unrelenting. In the chaos, the Veron began to understand their miscalculation. The humans, with their fragile bodies and short lives, had proven themselves more resilient than anticipated. They possessed an unyielding will, a spark of defiance that could not be extinguished. The battle raged, but the balance had shifted. Humanity stood at the precipice, their survival no longer a distant hope but a tangible reality. On the bridge of the Aegis, Amani felt the weight of her people's legacy pressing upon her, a reminder that they were the inheritors of a resilient lineage, one that could rise from the ashes of defeat. "Keep the pressure on them," she urged, her voice steady as the Aegis fired volley after volley into the disoriented enemy. "We've got them on the run." Her command was mirrored across the fleet, a synchronous effort that spoke of a unity forged in the fires of adversity. The Veron, once a relentless tide, now found themselves battered against the rocks of human perseverance. As the battle unfolded, Amani's mind turned to the future. The Veron had been a catalyst, a force that had pushed humanity to the brink. Yet from that brink, they had found a strength that lay not in their technology or numbers, but in their capacity to adapt, to overcome insurmountable odds through sheer force of will. In the distance, the Veron ships began their retreat, a disorganized withdrawal that spoke of a hive mind struggling to comprehend its own limitations. They had underestimated the humans, and it had cost them dearly. The bridge of the Aegis erupted in cheers, a sound that echoed through the corridors and into the hearts of every soul aboard. It was a victory not just of arms, but of spirit, a testament to what humanity could achieve when united against a common foe. Amani allowed herself a moment of respite, a brief lull in the storm. She knew the battle was far from over, that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. Yet in the faces of her crew, she saw the embers of hope rekindled, a determination that spoke of a future worth fighting for. As the Veron retreated into the void, their once mighty fleet reduced to a shadow of its former self, Amani turned her gaze to the stars. Each one a reminder of the vast unknowns that lay beyond, of the mysteries and dangers that awaited those who dared to explore. But now, humanity was not alone. They had proven themselves against a foe that had sought to extinguish them. They had risen from the ashes, their indomitable spirit a beacon in the darkness. And as the Aegis sailed through the wreckage of battle, the crew knew one thing for certain: they were not to be underestimated. They were the descendants of explorers and dreamers, warriors and survivors. They were humanity, and they would endure. With a final command, Amani ordered the fleet to regroup, their ships forming a protective phalanx around the flagship. Together, they would return to the stars, to the unknown frontiers where destiny awaited. In the silence of space, the Aegis and her sister ships glided forward, a testament to the strength and resilience of a species that refused to vanish into the night. The universe was vast, its challenges daunting, but humanity had faced extinction and emerged stronger. And as they sailed into the starry expanse, they carried with them the knowledge that they were more than the sum of their parts. They were a force to be reckoned with, an indomitable spirit that could not be quelled. For in the heart of the void, humanity had found its voice, a clarion call that echoed through the stars, a reminder to all who would dare challenge them. They were here to stay. The alien bridge of the Kurthrak dreadnought was a cacophony of dissonant sounds and shifting shadows, a discordant symphony of panic and confusion. The Kurthrak, a race known for their predatory instincts and ruthless efficiency, had never anticipated that the seemingly fragile human species could pose a genuine threat. Their arrogance had been their folly. Admiral Karl, the commander of the dreadnought, stood at the center of the chaos, his multifaceted eyes narrowing as he surveyed the holographic projections that filled the chamber. The humans, against all odds, had breached the outer defenses. Their ships, now highlighted in crimson against the void, moved with a precision that defied the Kurthrak's expectations. "Impossible," Karl hissed, his mandibles clicking with agitation. "How did they bypass our cloaking fields?" The question remained unanswered, a testament to the humans' ingenuity and relentless determination. Unbeknownst to the Kurthrak, A team of human engineers had deciphered the subtle fluctuations in the energy spectrum emitted by the cloaking devices. With this knowledge, they had devised a countermeasure, one that allowed their fleet to slip through the Kurthrak's defenses like a scalpel through flesh. On board the human flagship, the UNS Dauntless, Captain Elena Ramirez stood resolute on the bridge, a paragon of calm amidst the storm of battle. Her crew, a testament to the diversity and unity of humanity, operated with the synchronized precision of a finely tuned orchestra. They had defied the odds before and would do so again. "All stations, report," Ramirez commanded, her voice steady and authoritative. "Forward batteries locked on target," Lieutenant Jong replied, his fingers dancing over the console with practiced ease. "Firing solution complete. Shields holding at 65%, Ensign Carter added, her eyes glued to the readouts. "Minor hull breaches, but nothing critical. Engineering reports full power to all systems," Chief Engineer Patel confirmed, his voice a deep rumble over the comms. "Reactor stable. Execute the plan," Ramirez ordered, her gaze fixed on the looming silhouette of the Kurthrak dreadnought. "Let's remind them why humans should never be underestimated." As the command was given, the Dauntless surged forward, leading the human fleet in a daring maneuver that would become legend. The ships weaved through the enemy lines with a grace that belied their bulk, the pilots exhibiting a mastery of spatial dynamics that bordered on artistry. The Kurthrak, with their superior numbers and technological prowess, had believed themselves invulnerable. Yet as the humans advanced, a realization began to dawn upon them, a chilling understanding of the catastrophic misjudgment that had led them to this moment. The dreadnought's sensors screamed warnings as the human ships unleashed their payloads. Precision strikes targeted the weak points in the Kurthrak's armor, exploiting design flaws and vulnerabilities that their engineers had overlooked. Each impact was a calculated blow, a testament to the strategic brilliance of the human commanders. Admiral Carl watched in disbelief as his once mighty warship shuddered under the assault. The humans were not acting with the desperation of cornered prey but with the confidence of predators who had found their mark. "How?" Carl rasped, his voice a low growl of frustration. "How could they have known?" The answer lay in humanity's resilience, an indomitable spirit forged in the crucible of adversity. Where others saw obstacles, humans saw challenges to overcome. Where others saw defeat, humans saw opportunity. It was this tenacity, this refusal to yield, that had propelled them across the cosmos. On the Dauntless, Captain Ramirez could feel the tide turning. Her crew worked in unison, a seamless blend of skill and instinct. They were humanity's best, the culmination of generations of progress and sacrifice, and they would not falter. "Prepare for boarding operations," Ramirez instructed. "We need to take control of their command center." The order was met with grim determination. The boarding teams assembled, men and women from across Earth and its colonies, each one a testament to human diversity and strength. They donned their exosuits, the gleaming armor reflecting the light of distant stars. "Boarding pods ready," Lieutenant Commander Hughes reported, his voice filled with steely resolve. "On your command, Captain." "Launch," Ramirez said, her gaze unwavering. The pods shot forth, streaking through the void towards the crippled dreadnought. The Kurthrak defenders, caught off guard by the audacity of the assault, scrambled to repel the intruders. But the humans were relentless, driven by the knowledge that this battle would shape the future of their species. As the boarding parties breached the hull, the corridors of the dreadnought became a theater of conflict. The humans moved with lethal efficiency, their training and discipline evident in every motion. They advanced through the alien vessel, overcoming each obstacle with a combination of strategy and sheer willpower. Admiral Carl, sensing the end drawing near, rallied his forces for a final stand. The Kurthrak fought with the desperation of a cornered beast, but they were no match for the humans' resolve. In the command center, Carl faced the human boarding team led by Lieutenant Commander Hughes. The Kurthrak admiral's eyes glinted with defiance, yet beneath the bravado lay a growing recognition of his inevitable defeat. "You fight well, humans," Carl acknowledged, his voice a grudging admission of respect. But this victory will cost you dearly. Hughes, battered yet unyielding, met the Admiral's gaze. We've already paid the price, and we won't back down. Not now, not ever. With those words, the conflict reached its crescendo. The humans surged forward, overpowering the Kurthrock defenders and securing the command center. The dreadnought, once a symbol of Kurthrock supremacy, was now under human control. Back on the Dauntless, Captain Ramirez received the confirmation with a nod of satisfaction. "Transmit the signal," she instructed. The transmission echoed across the battlefield. A message to their allies, both human and alien, that the tide had turned. The Kurthrock, once the hunters, were now the hunted, their arrogance and underestimation of humanity their undoing. In the aftermath, as the shattered remnants of the Kurthrock fleet retreated into the void, the humans stood victorious. The cost had been high, but the triumph was undeniable, a testament to the indomitable spirit of a species that refused to be cowed. The crew of the Dauntless, weary yet exultant, gathered on the bridge. They were a tapestry of humanity's finest, bound together by a shared purpose and a common cause. In their eyes shone the light of hope, a beacon that would guide their species into the future. Captain Ramirez surveyed her crew, her heart swelling with pride. They had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit. "Set course for home," she ordered, her voice echoing with the promise of new beginnings. "Let's show the galaxy what it means to be human." In the wake of the battle, the silence of space returned with a haunting finality. The once vibrant and chaotic theater of war was now littered with the debris of fallen vessels, both human and alien. The cold void enveloped the remnants, swallowing the echoes of desperation and defiance that had filled these corridors of darkness. Captain Alara Voss stood on the bridge of the UESC Resolute Asterisk, her gaze fixed on the holographic display that mapped the aftermath. The enemy fleet, a formidable assembly of bioengineered behemoths, lay scattered and broken, a testament to humanity's tenacity and ingenuity. Her crew moved with quiet efficiency, their faces etched with exhaustion and relief. They had pushed beyond their limits, staring into the abyss and emerging victorious. "Status report," Alara requested, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. "Minimal casualties on our side," Lieutenant Ramirez replied, his fingers dancing across the console. "The latest scans confirm the enemy has been neutralized." "We're clear, Captain," Alara nodded, her heart heavy with the weight of those words. "Begin recovery operations. We owe it to our fallen to bring them home." As the crew set about their somber task, Alara's thoughts drifted to the broader implications of their victory. Humanity had stood on the precipice of annihilation, facing an adversary from the darkest corners of the cosmos. And yet, they had prevailed, not through superior technology or sheer force, but through the indomitable spirit that had propelled them to the stars. In the days that followed, the extent of their triumph became evident. The alien threat, once poised to consume them, had been vanquished, its remnants scattered and leaderless. The network of human colonies, once isolated and vulnerable, began to stir with renewed hope. Messages of solidarity and gratitude flowed in from across the system, a chorus of voices united in the face of adversity. Alara's mind turned to Dr. Marcus Hale, the enigmatic scientist whose theories had guided them to victory. Hale had been instrumental in deciphering the enemy's weaknesses, his brilliance shining through the chaos. She found him in the ship's lab, surrounded by data displays and analysis reports, his eyes alight with a mix of triumph and contemplation. "Captain," Hale greeted, his tone as measured as ever. "I trust the recovery efforts are proceeding smoothly?" "They are," Alara confirmed. "Your insights were pivotal, Marcus. We couldn't have done it without you." Hale nodded, his expression thoughtful. "The enemy underestimated us. They viewed us as primitive, yet it was our unpredictability, our capacity to adapt, that turned the tide." Alara studied him for a moment, sensing the deeper currents beneath his words. "What's next for you, Marcus?" He paused, considering. "There's so much more to learn." This victory has opened new doors, about them, about us. I intend to continue my research, to ensure we're ready if they, or others like them, return. Then I wish you luck, Alara said, offering a rare smile. You've earned a place in history, Marcus. As Hale returned to his work, Alara made her way through the ship, absorbing the quiet determination of her crew. Each face she passed bore the marks of their shared ordeal, yet there was a resilience there that spoke volumes. Humanity had been tested and had emerged stronger, more united than ever before. In the weeks that followed, the remnants of the alien fleet were salvaged for study. The knowledge gleaned from these efforts promised to propel human technology into new realms. Engineers and scientists worked tirelessly, deciphering alien schematics, reverse engineering their advanced systems. Humanity, once content to explore the outer fringes of known space, now looked even further, driven by a newfound confidence and curiosity. Alara found herself at the heart of these discussions, her experience and leadership sought by many. She was invited to address the newly formed Interstellar Council, a body established in the aftermath to oversee humanity's expansion and defense. Her words carried weight, her insights shaping the policies that would guide them into the future. The universe is vast and filled with wonders and dangers alike. Alara addressed the council, her voice calm and resolute. We've seen the darkness that lurks beyond our stars, but we've also discovered our capacity to face it. Let our victory here be a beacon to others, a testament to what we can achieve together. Her speech resonated across worlds, a rallying cry for a species that had once been divided by distance and difference. Now, they stood as one, their eyes set on the horizon, eager to embrace the challenges and opportunities that awaited them. For Lieutenant Ramirez, the battle had been a crucible. He had witnessed the depths of human courage and sacrifice, and it had changed him. He found himself drawn to leadership roles, his insights and calm under pressure valued by his peers. He accepted a promotion and a command of his own, determined to uphold the ideals that had carried them through the darkest hours. As the UESC Resolute returned to Earth, the crew was met with celebrations and honors. The names of the fallen were etched into history, their sacrifices memorialized by a grateful humanity. Amidst the accolades, Alara found solace in quiet moments, reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. She understood that their victory was not an end, but a beginning, a chance to redefine their place in the cosmos. The alien threat had not been entirely erased. Whispers of its presence lingered at the edges of known space. Yet humanity was no longer afraid. They had faced the void and emerged not just as survivors, but as pioneers, ready to chart new courses among the stars. They had demonstrated that even in the face of overwhelming odds, they could forge their own destiny, wielding hope as their mightiest weapon. The victory had changed everything. Industries bloomed, economies flourished, and the cultural exchange between worlds accelerated. Art, music, and language reflected the shared experiences of a species reborn. Humanity's narrative had shifted from one of isolation to one of collaboration, with each individual playing a part in the tapestry of their collective story. Alara Voss, now Admiral Voss, presided over these transformations with a steady hand. She continued to advocate for unity, her experiences serving as a reminder of the cost of complacency. Her influence extended beyond the military, inspiring generations to look beyond themselves, to strive for something greater. In the depths of space, the remnants of the alien fleet drifted, silent witnesses to humanity's resolve. They served as a reminder of the trials they had faced, a testament to their perseverance. And somewhere, in the distant reaches of the universe, other civilizations watched and listened, their own destinies unknowingly intertwined with that of Earth. Humanity had not just survived, they had thrived, leaving an indelible mark on the cosmos. They had shown that, despite their flaws and frailties, they were capable of greatness. The stars were no longer a distant dream, but a realm of infinite possibilities, a canvas upon which they could paint their future. As Alara looked up at the night sky, she felt a profound sense of peace. The constellations shimmered with promise, each point of light a reminder of the journey they had embarked upon. Humanity had faced the darkness and, in doing so, discovered the light within themselves. And so, as the UESC Resolute prepared for its next voyage, Alara stood ready, her heart filled with the quiet certainty that, whatever lay ahead, humanity would endure. They were no longer afraid of the unknown. They welcomed it, ready to embrace the challenges and wonders of the universe. For in the end, it was not the stars that defined them, but their journey to reach them, a journey that had only just begun.